What if I told you that depression, anxiety, and other mental health problems aren't really about chemical imbalances in your brain? What if the real problem is actually how your brain cells produce and use energy? Dr. Chris Palmer, a psychiatrist at Harvard Medical School, has spent years studying this exact question, and what he's discovered could change everything we think we know about mental health. The real cause of mental illness. Here's the thing most people don't know. Your brain is incredibly hungry for energy. It uses about 20% of all the energy your body produces, even though it's only 2% of your body weight. And the tiny power plants inside your brain cells, called mitochondria, are what keep everything running. Think of mitochondria like the engine in your car. When your engine is running smoothly, everything works great. But when it starts breaking down, problems pop up everywhere. The same thing happens in your brain. Dr. Palmer believes that when these cellular engines start failing, that's when mental illness begins. And here's the fascinating part. All the things we know can trigger mental health problems actually damage these same cellular engines. Lack of sleep damages your mitochondria. Chronic stress, same thing. Poor diet, alcohol, environmental toxins, they all hurt these tiny power plants in your brain cells. But here's where it gets really interesting. These mitochondria don't just make energy. They control almost everything that happens in your brain cells. They help make the brain chemicals that affect your mood, like serotonin and dopamine. They control which genes get turned on or off. They even manage inflammation in your brain. So when they're not working properly, everything starts falling apart. A revolutionary treatment approach. Now, if the problem is really about energy production in the brain, then the solution should be to fix that energy system, right? That's exactly what Dr. Palmer started thinking. He started experimenting with something called the ketogenic diet, a way of eating that's very low in carbs and higher in healthy fats. This diet forces your body to burn fat for fuel instead of sugar, creating molecules called ketones that your brain can use for energy. The ketogenic diet isn't new. Doctors have been using it to treat epilepsy since 1921. But Dr. Palmer wondered, could it help with other brain disorders too? The results were shocking. Real stories, real results. Let me tell you about one of Dr. Palmer's patients, a 33-year-old man who had been struggling with severe mental illness for years. He was hearing voices constantly, had paranoid thoughts, and was so sick he couldn't live independently. He tried every medication available, but nothing worked. Then, he started the ketogenic diet. Within months, something incredible happened. The voices stopped. The paranoid thoughts disappeared. He lost 160 pounds and started living on his own again. He even went back to school and started performing improv comedy. This wasn't just one lucky case. In a study of 31 people with treatment-resistant mental illness, people who hadn't gotten better with any medications, every single person who stuck with the ketogenic diet saw some improvement. Nearly half went into complete remission. Let me repeat that. People who had tried everything else and nothing worked were getting better by changing what they ate. How food changes your brain. So how does this actually work? It's not just about giving your brain a different type of fuel, though that helps. The ketogenic diet triggers something much more powerful. When you eat this way, your brain starts a deep cleaning process. It gets rid of old, damaged mitochondria and builds new, healthy ones. It's like replacing the old, broken engines in your brain cells with brand new, efficient ones. This process also reduces inflammation in your brain, changes the bacteria in your gut, and helps regulate your brain chemistry naturally. But here's the crucial part. You have to stick with it. Dr. Palmer found that people only got better when they achieved something called ketosis, where their body was actually burning fat for fuel. He measures this with simple tests, aiming for specific levels depending on the condition. For depression, he looks for certain ketone levels in the blood. For more severe conditions like bipolar disorder, he aims even higher. The challenge of change. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This isn't easy. Changing your diet completely is hard, especially when you're already struggling with mental health issues. Dr. Palmer doesn't just tell his patients to go on a ketogenic diet and come back in 3 months. He meets with them every week. He monitors their ketone levels, adjusts their approach, and provides constant support. But here's what's interesting. His patients with the most severe mental illness are often the most motivated to stick with it. Why? Because when they cheat on the diet, their symptoms come back fast. They quickly learn that no piece of cake or pizza is worth the return of their depression or anxiety.
Beyond severe mental illness. You might be thinking, this sounds extreme. I don't have schizophrenia or severe bipolar disorder, but Dr. Palmer's approach works for milder problems too. If you're dealing with low-grade depression, anxiety, brain fog, or just feeling burned out, you don't necessarily need to go full ketogenic. Often, just cutting out processed foods high in sugar and reducing your overall carb intake can make a huge difference. Even obesity, which often comes with depression and anxiety, might be better understood as a symptom of the same underlying problem: damaged cellular engines in your brain and body. Important warnings. Before you run out and completely change your diet, there are some important things to know. First, if you're taking any psychiatric medications, never stop them without working with a doctor. Some of Dr. Palmer's patients have been able to reduce their medications, but this has to be done carefully and slowly. Second, the ketogenic diet can cause some side effects. Some people experience something called hypomania. They need less sleep, have more energy, and feel more creative. While this might sound good, it can actually be problematic and needs to be managed. Also, if you drink alcohol, be very careful. People on ketogenic diets process alcohol very differently, and you can become much more intoxicated than usual with the same amount of alcohol. Finally, women might have different experiences than men, and there are some questions about how this diet affects fertility that researchers are still studying. The future of mental health. What Dr. Palmer is proposing isn't just a new treatment. It's a completely different way of thinking about mental health. Instead of just trying to fix chemical imbalances with medications, we could be fixing the underlying energy problems in brain cells. This doesn't mean medications are bad or that everyone should stop taking them, but it does mean we might have another powerful tool to help people feel better. The research is still ongoing, and Dr. Palmer is the first to say we need more studies, but the early results are incredibly promising. Taking action. So what can you do with this information? Start small. Try reducing processed foods and sugar in your diet. Pay attention to how different foods make you feel. Make sure you're getting enough sleep and managing stress. If you're dealing with more serious mental health issues, talk to a healthcare provider who understands metabolic approaches to mental health. The most important thing to remember is this: your brain is not broken. It might just need better fuel and a chance to repair itself. And that's something you have more control over than you might think. Your mental health might not be about having the right brain chemistry. It might be about having healthy brain cells with enough energy to do their job. And that's something we can actually solve.